How to wholesale probates for beginners. Guys, my name is Zach Ginn, and today's video, if you've never done a probate before, I'm going to show you how to look up the probates, how to actually get them, the information you need to get, most importantly, how to market to people in probate, and then how to sell your probate wholesale deals. So, guys, do me a favor before I get into it, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so more people can find the truth out about wholesaling. So we're talking all about probates today. And I want you to understand my biggest mistakes in wholesaling was being scared and intimidated of doing probates because honestly, I felt like I was ambulance chasing. I didn't want to deal with the whole death scenario and I felt like it was obtrusive. And I'm here to tell you it was a huge misjudgment by me. And I didn't want to get uncomfortable and I let fear overtake it. So I did not touch probates for the first 7 years of wholesaling due to basically my misunderstanding of it. So don't make that mistake. So today's video should get you past that and show you how to get started in probate. So first of all, we have to define what is a probate. And a probate is nothing more than a legal process that winds up the deceased's final financial affairs. Now, why do they have it? Because the reality is if you own something in title, like a car, a boat, an RV, or you own a piece of property and a deed or a deed of trust, is you cannot willingly transact it if you're no longer alive. So for this purpose, they created a probate. A probate is just a proving up process. So people either die with a will or they die without a will. Dying without a will is called intestate. When someone dies with a will, bottom line, is it's basically easier. Now, the really cool thing is you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't even have to understand the legal system. You just got to understand some basic parameters of how probates work. Now, for someone to enact a probate, somebody has to file a petition. They usually seek out an attorney to do it. And they petition and they apply for what they call a PR, which is short for personal representative or an executor, depending on what part of the country you're in. And basically that person, once they're granted the authority by proving up the will, is they're in charge of basically disseminating the final wishes of the deceased person's financial affairs. So in this instance, if they own a piece of property, then it's their job to decide to keep it, fix it up, or sell the property. In essence, the PR and the executor are basically the same as the deceased person. They have the exact same power, but they have to go through the legal process called probates. Now, most importantly, people ask me like, Rick, why do you like probates so much? And the funniest thing is the thing that drove me the furthest away from probates is what attracts me the most to it now. Remember in the beginning, I was fearful. I didn't want to deal with the whole death cloud. And I felt like I was like ambulance chasing. And I just like, there's got to be easier ways to make money in wholesaling. So once I learned how to do wholesaling of probates, I found the complete opposite. Number one, these are the most willing and most highly motivated sellers you will ever deal with. Why? Because a lot of times they get stuck with a property they really don't want to keep. They have seriously emotional triggers to the property. And number three is it's a financial burden. You have to pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance. You have to upkeep the lawn. You got to maintain the property. You got to pay the property taxes. And for all those reasons, if they have a long court proceeding, it's more of the reason for them to get rid of the property quickly with a wholesaler like me. Honestly, most people who sell me a property in probate are usually hugging and crying by the time I buy it. Why? Because we help them solve a huge problem. Not only are they motivated, here's the real pluses is the houses are typically vacant because the person's passed away. The next one is the PR, the executor, is usually an out-of-town owner, meaning they are not local. Why is that important? Because it's just so much easier to sell the property. You can walk as many cash buyers in. You get more flexibility with it. And honestly, the more time you have and the more flexibility you have, the higher of the disposition price you can get for these properties. The last and one of my most favorite part about these types of deals and probates is they all have a ton of deferred maintenance. So when someone's passing away or they're in the final stages of life, the family's job is to take care of the loved one, not take care of the house. The house it's nothing. So we always do everything from a human aspect first. Probates are no different. Once the person's passed away, they understand someone's going to have to update the house. It's probably not going to pass inspections and the retail market's probably going to kill it. This is one of the biggest reasons why people want to sell probates to a wholesale investor like this. Think about this. They've customized the house. They've put down padding so grandma doesn't break her hip anymore. They've basically handicapped the entire bathroom with bars and all that. And regular retail buyers don't want to see that stuff. So somebody has to go in there and clean it up. Now, it's not going to be you and me. We're going to find a cash buyer to do it. Our job's to put the whole deal together as the wholesaler. So guys, I'm telling you, wholesaling probates is exciting. And I forgot to give you the final amazing tidbit about it. And I found this out in my first 7 years of doing wholesaling. I did some probates by accident, not on purpose. I figured out that probates are 2.5 to 3 times more profitable than your typical assignment of contract wholesale deal, which means they're a heck of a lot more profit. They're easier. There's higher motivation. There's deferred maintenance. There's out-of-town owners and the property's vacant. Guys, this adds up to a blizzard storm of making a ton of profit and feeling good about what you do. So let's get right into it. Let's figure out, how can I pull the probate list? That's question number 1, and that's simple. All leads are derived at the county probate courthouse. Now, if you have a county in a market that you're working on, you can do this locally, you can do this virtually. I'm going to walk you through both scenarios. Number 1, go down to the courthouse and you ask for the docket of opened probates. What you want to do is do the most recent ones open. Do not go back in time. It doesn't work. Speed kills in probates, meaning whoever gets in contact with the PR or the executor first usually has the absolute best shot in taking a deal down. So don't go back in time. I know you think it's efficient. It doesn't work. I've tried it. So once you pull the PRs, and guys, keep this in mind. This is not the easiest list to pull. You're going to get some resistance. To overcome resistance, you have to beat it with persistence. If you want to learn more on how to do that, go over to freewholesaling.com. I teach that in detail on how to pull all government lists. So when we're pulling a probate list, sometimes they're not overly cooperative. They ask a lot of questions. Why are you doing it? Just say, listen, I'm curious as a taxpayer of this county. I'm trying to find out who has opened a probate that actually owns a property. So I just need to get the probate docket records, and then you're going to go cross-reference these properties on the property appraiser sites on your own. It's simply that simple. It is public information, but a lot of times they'll hit you with privacy policies, and you got to navigate through those. If you really want anything in life, you just can't take no for an answer. And number 2, you have to kill people with kindness. You cannot be rude. You can't run them over. You're not going to get anywhere. And sometimes it will take multiple visits to get it. My first attempt took me 7 just because I think I'm a guy, and that's just the way it is. So once we pull this probate up, we pull up the document, we pull up a case. Rick, what information are we looking for to start a probate wholesale campaign? Really simple. Number 1, you need the deceased person's name, usually black and white on all probate court cases. Number 2, you would like to see if there is a property address on there. This is not a deal breaker, but it makes it easier. Some counties actually put the property the decedents lived at, which makes it a lot easier. Or sometimes they put other property addresses on there. Remember, not every person in probate has a piece of real estate. Actually, half of them won't. So the first step is verify the deceased person's name if there's an address on there. And number 3, and probably the most important part, is get the PR, the personal representative, or the executor's name. This is absolutely critical. If you can get an address on there, even better. Rarely will you ever have a phone number on there. So now once I have the deceased person's name, I have the PR's name and a possible property address. Now I have everything I need for that case. I know what you're saying, Rick. Don't I need a lawyer and all this stuff? No, it's irrelevant. It's not going to help you out at all. Once you have that information, your job is now to do what we call a skip trace. So there's plenty of places you can go to do skip traces. You can go to dmzach.com. You can go online, do it for free on truepeoplesearch.com. But if you go through dmzach.com and you have a membership there, it's already included in your service. Go ahead and take advantage of it. Why not? It's super simple. Who are you skip tracing? Obviously, we're not going to skip trace the deceased person because they're not here anymore. We want to look up the PR or the executor's information. And specifically, I want to get their mailing address, their home mailing address, and I want to get their phone number. These 2 crucial pieces of information mean everything. Now, the one and final part you have to look up, and I suggest you do this before you do the skip tracing, is go in your property appraiser's records for that county or the surrounding counties and see if the deceased person owned property in that county. If they don't own property, then they're not a candidate to do a probate on your wholesale list. Get rid of them. So cross-reference your property appraiser's site for the deceased to see if they own property in that county. Remember, sometimes you look around multiple counties, and then if they do, you can go back and skip trace, and you're looking up the PR or the executor's information, specifically a mailing address and their phone number. These are going to be crucial pieces to our puzzle as we move to the next phase, which is going to be, Rick, how do I market to people in probate? Once you have that skip trace information, meaning a mailing address and a phone number, let's move on how to engage our probate prospects. Now, there's really only two techniques, and I'm going to make this one super, super simple. I've tried everything out there. There's only two techniques that really work in probate. Number one, simply take that phone number and cold call. I call it warm call, and reach out to your prospects and see if they have interest in selling the property. I didn't ask them, I know your property's in probate, none of that stuff. Just say, hey, listen, hey, are you the owner of 123 USA Street? Great. Hey, do you have any interest in selling the property? I don't talk about the probate at all. It's simple. You don't need multi-dialers. You just pick up your cell phone and you dial. Do not complicate this. You have their phone number. Speed kills in probates. Whoever contacts the PR or the executor first has the highest and best chance to take down that probate deal. Now, we're going to use that approach. Listen, if you call them the first time, there's no answer, don't leave a voicemail. Same thing on the second time. The third time, leave a simple voicemail. Hey, this is Rick. Hey, I had a quick question about the property on Fern Street. And that's how you do your follow-up sequence. The next thing we do is we're going to add another layer, and we're going to mail them a letter. No, I'm not going to mail them a postcard. It's a letter. Why? Because letters work. I've proven it over the last 10 years. And basically what you're going to do with your letter is it's a very simple letter. And for absolute convenience, so you don't have to screw this up at all, go over to freewholesaling.com, go down to the probate section, and I have a probate template letter. You can go ahead and cheat and use mine. I've been using it for 10 years plus. It works like a charm, and it is direct and to the point, and do not do it any differently. Maybe you can put like a little bit of customization on the bottom, but keep it simple and straight to the point. And the beautiful thing about my letter is it has what we call a USP in it. What's a USP? It means it's a unique selling proposition that very few other investors offer. And basically, here's what I teach you to be a resourceful wholesaler. Anybody can buy a property. Anybody can do it. In fact, too many people make this transactional. I teach you on how to connect, build a rapport, and have a conversation with sellers. So if you want to use my technique, my USP basically says, and if you're interested in selling the property prior to the probate being completed, please reach out to me and give me a call. I'll show you how. That's it. Most of them call just off that line. Now you're saying, Rick, like what is it? Here's the reality. In most states in the United States, you can buy the probate property prior to the probate being completed. What does that mean? It basically means that because it's such an expensive asset and it is a drain on the estate of the deceased person, the lawyer can file a motion to liquidate the asset. The money goes to the estate and you solve one of the PR's biggest problems, the headache of owning a property, the expense and the time it consumes. If you can solve big problems, you make big money in wholesaling. Probates are absolutely no different. Now, we want to mail that letter as soon as we get the probate lead and we want to get it out. As I said, if you want that letter, go over to freewholesaling.com. It is all laid out there for you. I basically mail out one letter. You maybe mail out another letter 30 days later. Hey, I'm not sure if you missed it. And you put it in a white envelope. You hand address it, or you can put a font on the front of your printer. And you produce these letters at home. They're really simple to do. A basic Microsoft Word mail merge through Word. You can do it on Apple. You can do it on a Windows computer. It doesn't matter. Simplify it. If you don't know how to do it, do a YouTube search. I'll show you how to do it. So I want you to use both approaches because some people don't mind if you're cold calling and that's the fastest way to get to them. Some people hate cold calling and they appreciate the letter. So I call it kind of the McDonald's, Burger King approach, but it works really well. Remember, the simpler you make this process, the better your results are going to be. So now we're on to the next step is once you get the property under contract, is you simply bring your cash buyers through. And here's where it's actually easier on this. Because you have flexibility in time, so most probates take anywhere from 45 to 120 days to take down. I know what you're thinking like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of time. Now, if you're new to wholesaling, which a lot of you are watching this video, that is an asset to you. Why? Because you don't have a cash buyers list. You don't have a lot of experience. You don't quite know what you're doing and you're just trying to figure it out. And I'm okay with that. But what that does is it gives you more time to bring more cash buyers through the property. The owner's not living in the property. You should have full control of the property once it's under contract. And for that reason alone, you can get a much higher price. It's not nearly as stressful. Most of the PR is extremely flexible when you sell it. Once you have it under contract and you have a bona fide cash buyer for your property and you're making a good spread, that's when you push the seller to push the probate lawyer to get this thing sold. Now, once I have it, I'm pushing hard. Until I have that contract, I take my time, because most wholesale deals, you're under extreme pressure in 2 to 3 weeks to find a cash buyer. Can you imagine if you had 4 or 5 times that amount of time? You're usually going to get higher offers, you're going to get nicer sellers, and it's a much easier transaction. And the bottom line, you'll make more money. So guys, that is the start to finish on how probates work. If you want to learn more information on how to do it, go over to freewholesaling.com. And let me sum up some final words because most of you are new to probate investing. I'm excited you found this. And let me give you some keys with my experience over time. Number one, most people quit probate marketing within the first 30 to 90 days. Why? Because they're impatient. You have to be patient. This is a cheap form of marketing. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It doesn't cost a lot of time. You can have multiple jobs and easily take incoming phone calls. So you have to be extremely consistent. Most of your competition is going to quit after a month or 2. You have to commit to a year doing it. It's the only way I got through it. I didn't get a deal my first 2.5 months of doing it. And then they started coming. Why? Because I committed to it. Once I committed to it, it's like I asked the world to calm down and give me probates. If you try to go on an attack and try to get 10 probates off the bat, you're going to get disappointed. You only need 1 or 2 to really change the trajectory of your wholesaling career. And remember, I do deals $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 just on single family homes because people don't want these types of properties. The challenge is in being consistently marketing for these people. You have to adamantly, on at least a weekly basis, pull the probates. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if you're doing it virtual, you can actually pull these probates sometimes online, or you can go in person, either or. I used to go twice a week to be the fastest person to them, but go at least pull the leads at least once a week and mail at least once a week. If you're aggressive like me, maybe you do twice a week. So we understand we have to be extremely consistent. Number 2, you have to be a really good listener when it comes to probates. Why? Because for obvious reasons, there's a lot of drama in these. People have emotional triggers with them. And most people connect with me. The more you can get them talking, the better your odds are. You want to use the 80-20 rule, and you want to let them talk. One of my final rules is on the first conversation, we don't attack price. Why? Because every other investor attacks price right off the bat. If you go right in the price, you're ice cold, you're very transactional, and you're never going to get past that first conversation because the seller, which is the PR, is never going to trust you. So if you'll use these basic tips, be consistent, become a good listener, and don't attack price on your first phone call. In fact, it takes 5 to 6 contacts before you get an offer all set up. And by then, you usually have so much trust. They love working with you. It's actually a very simple negotiation. The only question is, how much money are you going to make? So guys, wholesaling probates is an amazing, amazing niche for you to get into. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't wait till you get 5, 6, 7 years into it and just decide to deep dive into it. In fact, if you start out with probates, you'll be so much further ahead of the game than all the other wholesalers out there that if you're patient with it, you be a good listener, and you're extremely consistent, you're going to make some huge profits. And why not, guys? You deserve it. You need to go out there and do it. If you want to learn more on how to wholesale probates, go over to freewholesaling.com. Not only can you learn how to get your first probate deal, me and Zach will teach you how to get to your first $100,000 in wholesaling. We teach it from A to Z, not only probates, we teach you how to pull all the government lists, how to find the most motivated sellers, and teach you how to take action and be accountable so you can be successful and not rely on anyone else. So guys, listen, if you got value from today's video, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is Zach Ginn, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.